In the year 2278, humanity had spread across dozens of star systems, forging alliances and colonizing new worlds. The era was marked by prosperity and peace, but lurking in the shadows of the galaxy was a forgotten enemy: the Luminets, a species of ancient, sentient machines. Millennia ago, they had ravaged entire civilizations before mysteriously vanishing. Now they were awakening once more. On the outer edge of human-controlled space, deep within a research station orbiting the barren planet Ceres 3, Dr. Patrick, an astrophysicist, intercepted a strange signal. It was faint, a barely audible whisper echoing through the cosmic noise, but there was something off about it. He called in his assistant, Commander Jonah Keller, a veteran pilot who had seen his fair share of strange phenomena during his years patrolling the outer colonies. "Patrick, this signal, it feels familiar," Jonah said, his brow furrowed, staring at the oscillating waveforms on the screen. Dr. Patrick, after enhancing the signal, he found that the sound was not random. It was a message, encoded in an ancient language that hadn't been seen for thousands of years. It was Luminet. Patrick's blood ran cold. "We need to warn the High Council," he whispered. "They're waking up." 2 weeks later, the message had reached Earth's central government, and the High Council of Terra had dispatched a fleet to investigate the source. Led by Admiral Marcus Drake, the fleet consisted of humanity's most advanced ships, including the Sentinel, a massive warship equipped with experimental technologies. Dr. Patrick and Jonah had been assigned to the mission as scientific advisors. As the fleet arrived at the Ceres system, it was clear something was wrong. Scans showed enormous structures hidden beneath the planet's surface, Luminet machines, dormant but slowly coming to life. Suddenly, the ground began to tremble, and the skies darkened as massive Luminet warships erupted from underground, their towering forms blocking out the starlight. The human fleet opened fire, but the Luminet ships were equipped with energy shields far more advanced than anything humanity had ever encountered. They retaliated with weapons that seemed to distort reality itself, beams of dark energy that ripped through human ships like paper. "This isn't just a defensive move," Admiral Drake said, watching in horror as his fleet was torn apart. "They're preparing to invade." "Admiral, we need to retreat," Jonah shouted from his console. "Our weapons aren't strong enough to break through their shields." But it was too late. In mere minutes, half the fleet had been decimated. Patrick's mind raced as he tried to think of a solution. The Luminets were far more powerful than they had anticipated, but there had to be a weakness, something they had overlooked. "The signal," Dr. Patrick muttered. "They're communicating through subspace frequencies. If we can disrupt their network, we might be able to weaken them." Admiral Drake reluctantly agreed to Patrick's plan. It was risky, but they had no other choice. The Sentinel was equipped with a prototype subspace disruptor, designed to interfere with communication between distant systems. If they could get close enough to the Luminet control center on Ceres 3, they might be able to sever the link between the machines and their hive mind. The fleet regrouped, and a smaller task force, led by the Sentinel, began its descent toward the planet. The Luminets immediately responded, sending waves of drones and massive assault ships to intercept them. The human ships weaved through the chaos, unleashing everything they had as they approached the surface. Inside the Sentinel, Patrick and Jonah worked frantically to configure the disruptor. They knew that once they activated it, the Luminets would realize what they were doing. Time was running out. "Almost there," Patrick said, his fingers moving faster than ever across the control panel. "Just a few more seconds." As the Sentinel dodged another barrage of enemy fire, the disruptor came online. Patrick hit the activation switch, and a pulse of energy rippled out from the ship, distorting the fabric of subspace. The Luminet ships faltered, their movements becoming erratic as their communication network began to collapse. "It's working!" Jonah exclaimed, watching as the well-coordinated Luminet forces began to turn on each other in confusion. But the victory was short-lived. A massive Luminet dreadnought, easily the size of a small moon, emerged from the planet's surface. Its hull gleamed with dark metal, and its core pulsed with energy. This was the core mind, the central intelligence of the Luminet fleet. "We need to take it out before it restores their network," Admiral Drake ordered. "All ships, focus fire on the dreadnought." The human fleet launched everything they had, but the core mine's shields were many times stronger than anything they had encountered. It responded with terrifying power, unleashing waves of energy that tore through the fleet. One by one, human ships were annihilated. "We're not going to make it," Jonah muttered, watching as the dreadnought bore down on them. "We're outgunned." Patrick stared at the core mine's pulsing core on the display screen. An idea began to form in his mind. "Jonah, if we overload the subspace disruptor, it might create a feedback loop strong enough to destroy the core mine's central intelligence." "Overload it?" Jonah replied, his eyes wide. "That would tear the ship apart." Patrick nodded. "It's our only chance." With no other options, Admiral Drake gave the order. "Prepare to overload the disruptor. All non-essential personnel, evacuate immediately." As escape pods launched from the Sentinel, Patrick and Jonah stayed behind, working to reroute all power to the disruptor. The ship began to shake violently as systems overloaded, alarms blaring throughout the hull. "We don't have much time," Jonah said, his voice strained as the ship trembled. "Just a little longer," Patrick replied, sweat dripping down his forehead. The core mine began to power up a massive energy beam, aimed directly at the Sentinel. It was preparing for a final strike. But before it could fire, Patrick slammed his hand down on the final control. The subspace disruptor unleashed a massive wave of energy far beyond its intended capacity. The pulse spread through space, ripping apart the fabric of subspace itself. The core mine shuddered as its connection to the rest of the Luminet fleet collapsed. Its shields flickered, and then, in a blinding flash of light, the dreadnought exploded. The blast wave tore through the remaining Luminate ships, leaving them in disarray. Without their core mine, the unstoppable Luminet fleet was now little more than drifting debris. Humanity had won. In the aftermath of the battle, humanity mourned the loss of the brave souls who had sacrificed themselves to save the galaxy. The Luminet threat had been defeated, but the cost was high. The Sentinel was lost, along with Patrick and Jonah. But their legacy lived on. The data they had uncovered about the Luminets was studied carefully, and new defenses were developed in case the machines ever rose again. Though the war was over, the echoes of the Luminets' presence lingered in the far reaches of space, a reminder of the dangers that lurked in the void. Humanity was safe, for now.